Representative-elect Wes Virdell, welcome to the State House.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet. Glad you're here. You're about less than 2 weeks from being sworn in as a state representative.
It's hard to believe that. I mean, it's here, so
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Long road, 4 years of campaigning, really. So
That's a lot. That's a lot of campaigning.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time. I don't think people realize how difficult campaigning is when you're trying to actually have, a life, work, and
if
everything.
you go back to my best financial years were 2018, and then I ran for Congress in 2019, and it's just never been good since. So
That's right.
if you want to be poor, this is the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. That's right. Nobody gets rich. Well, some people do in D.C. It's interesting because when I was saying that you're going to be sworn in a couple of weeks, I'm referring to for our listeners and viewers, January 14th is the first day of the legislative session for 2025. And for those that don't know, it's 140 days, very short. But the very first act that the sitting legislators have to do is vote in a new Speaker of the House. I mean, I don't know if people even realize that the Secretary of State actually opens up. That it's not opened up. The Secretary of the State opens it up, it convenes the legislature, and then the vote's taken, and then which is to vote in a new leader.
Yeah,
and then you start going through the process of committees and rules and all the things that to run the.
I wish they would let the AG do it instead of the SOS. In that way. But I just found out the other day he was not invited to our swearing in day, which is crazy.
What?
So the speaker gets to invite different people, and the Senate invited Attorney General Ken Paxton on the Senate side.
Yeah,
and then from what I've heard, he has not gotten an invite yet for the House.
So the current speaker, who's still the speaker until January 14th, right? Did not invite the AG, who he helped impeach.
Yeah,
2023.
Exactly. Yeah, so hopefully Ken makes it over there.
I bet he shows up.
Yeah,
I have a feeling he's.
I think so.
Up. Yeah, he doesn't seem to be afraid of conflict, which is great. Well, when you say that, it just brings up all of the issues that I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah,
and that is that we have a current speaker, Dade Phelan, who was part of the group that worked on impeaching AG Paxton, and also kept the school voucher bill from passing multiple times, multiple special sessions, and he's taken himself. Although he did have a really tough primary, he did win, but he's taken himself out of the speaker race, and now you've got a battle between two guys. Dustin Burrows and Cook, and what I wanted to talk to you about is that I'm seeing the same dynamic that's been occurring since about 2006.
Yeah, it seems history repeats itself.
It's repeating itself, and it's not good. In 2006, for those that weren't around and didn't follow it like political junkies like we are.
Yeah.
That was the year that Craddock was on. He was running for his next term. He was the first Republican Speaker of the House.
Yep.
And he was running for his next term. And 11 Republicans, which they called the Cardinals, got together with the Democrats and put in Joe Strauss.
Pretty crazy. I hope the federal guys never figure that strategy out.
I think that the probably the punishment at the federal level might be bigger than losing your office is pretty big punishment, and of course last session, since all of that happened with the current speaker, who's, as you say, not invited, at least has not yet invited A.G. Paxton to come to your swearing in.
Yeah.
There was probably I want to say about 40 members, 40 members that were primaried.
We took out total was 24 of the. I remember 24 of the ones who voted for impeachment. Ended up losing they 9 of them dropped out before the primary.
That's right.
And the other 15 lost in their primary. It was unprecedented because it's normally 98% reelection rate.
Yeah.
And I think they said it was something like 46% reelection rate this cycle.
It was I think when you create powerful enemies like Governor Abbott and A.G. Paxton and Lieutenant Governor Patrick, that's what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know that I can't say ever. I've been in politics for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And about 17 sessions, but I don't think I've ever seen a primary with that many Republicans were.
No, it was great. I'm considered a non-traditional candidate. Normally, guys like me don't win, and I don't mean that like in a negative way, but I don't come from a very politically connected background or a super wealthy background or anything like that. And normally guys like us, we run, but we often don't win. And this time, the speaker and everybody laid out. They basically bit off more than they could chew. The people were upset about it. People started paying attention. They started realizing there's a lot of other things going on in the House right now that they don't like as Republicans. And anyways, it set the stage for several of us to win our races.
Yeah.
And the difference was, it took me 3 times of running before I won a race. And really the difference was, one is the people were more upset about what was going on in the House, which helped us out a lot. We had big endorsements that I normally wouldn't have had. And then Murr and them, sorry, not trying to badmouth anybody, but there was a lot of arrogance to go around for the speaker's vote and everything. I would say the speaker's vote, the AG impeachment vote.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very detrimental. I didn't understand what was going on, but I think the part of the problem is, and it used to be we used to work on with both sides of the house, and that was kind of the thing. You come to compromise and stuff. It's become so tribal at this point. It really is. It's very difficult. I don't know if we'll ever get back to that. But I think part of that problem was you had, and going back to what we were talking about with Joe Strauss, is that you started having Democratic chairs. They started to have power. And he was speaker for a long time.
Yeah.
And then, we've gone, a couple speakers since then. And now we've got Dave Phelan, who's got the same basic makeup.
Yep.
But I think what's happened is that the Democrats figured out we've got power. As long as we give them 76 votes, enough to get them to 76, it doesn't matter how many the Republicans have a majority.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on right now, right?
Yeah, they use the argument that it's always been this way, where you've had, when Democrats were in control, that Republicans chaired committees. And what they don't tell you is that it may have only been like 15 or 20 Republicans throughout a 150-year period that chaired a committee. And then we're giving away that many chairmanship positions to the minority party pretty much every session, from what I can tell. So yeah, not good.
Well, so is the split? Well, I guess the question I have, and maybe other people that are listening and watching have, is you've got about maybe 50 something Republicans that are part of the caucus right now that voted for Cook.
Yeah, I can actually give you some background.
Yeah,
on that.
please do.
So a lot of us were unhappy with the way the House has operated. We wanted to do something about it. Several of us kind of came together. It started originally with the contract with Texas. I don't know if you saw that.
Mm-hmm. I did.
Anyways, Brian Harrison and a couple other legislators got together, drafted it. Was it 25 of us signed it? And then anyways, there was a group that didn't want to sign that. They didn't agree with all 12 of the platforms on it, which were pretty good platforms. And those platforms were about changing how the House operates, reforming the rules. Anyways, we ended up meeting with some others that didn't want to sign on with a contract with Texas, but they still opposed the Democrat chairmanships and some other things, the way the House had been done. And so we ended up getting together. We wrote a very simple statement saying that we would agree to support a speaker candidate that does not appoint any Democrat chairs and is appointed through the Republican caucus process, which is actually part of the Republican caucus rules already.
That's what I understand.
Yep. And so we ended up with, I think, 48 that signed on to that letter.
Okay.
We tried to get some others to sign on it, but ended up being about 48. And then we decided, which has happened, I think, every session since we've had a Republican majority, where people come together and they say, hey, let's all agree on a candidate before we go into the Republican caucus vote. And so 48 of us, we'll call it the Reformer Group, showed up. There was a barbecue place we went to basically have this meeting, and we had all the candidates except for Dave Phelan come and present their because Dade had already said he would appoint Democrat chairs, so that excluded him already from a vote someone we would vote for on that. We had 5 of them come. They presented their speeches, and the nominations, and we took a vote. And out of 48 of us, in the end, it ended up being David Cook. I like David. David's a good guy. I didn't vote for David all 6 rounds of that voting that we did, but I did tell David, I said, hey, I agree to support whoever, we choose out of this group, and let me know how it can help. And so, and David's a great guy. Like, I don't have any issues with David other than he had voted for Paxton impeachment, but my understanding is he's apologized since then for doing that, says he regrets taking that vote. So that's good.
Interesting. Yeah.
And he's also, agreed to no Democrat chairs and to probably, I think, 10 out of those 12 original platforms or planks that we had on our contract with Texas. So, and the speaker's job is not supposed to be the most conservative guy in the House. It's to be a good administrator for the House. And so the way that it has appeared to me from the outside looking at it, I was a lobbyist last session, so I was here a lot. And anyways, the way it appeared to me is you had 4 or 5 guys that basically made the decisions, and they told the rest of the Republicans, here's what you're going to do, and get in line or we're going to run against you. And then the actual reverse ended up happening where they bit off more than they can chew, and then they got primaried and lost. But 40 of us, came together. My understanding is everyone was invited. There's probably a couple that didn't get invited, but I was told everybody was invited. And so we had that early meeting. It wasn't a caucus meeting. It was just a bunch of Republicans getting together.
Kind of pre-meeting before you had the caucus meeting?
Yeah, okay. So not an official caucus meeting or anything like that. And then we were all pretty united because we all agreed in that meeting, whoever wins this nomination, we're going to support. And so we get to the Republican caucus, and like the day before, or the 2 days before, Dade Phelan announced he's not going to run for speaker.
Out.
I think it caught them all off guard. And so they scrambled, and Dustin Burrows ended up being the guy that the other group. Just imagine there's 2 groups, right? And we're all Republicans, and we've all agreed to come to the reform caucus or to the caucus vote. And at the very beginning of the caucus vote, they read on it, here's the rules, and here's how the voting process works, and that we all agree whoever wins the nomination out of the Republican caucus is who we're going to support going on the floor. So that 88 of us showed up. There's 88 Republicans going into the Texas House. And so we all agreed to those rules. And then and we were very civil. Both sides were civil. Like, it wasn't people being rude to each other or anything like that. We get 2 rounds in. David Cook had 48, and then it was 48 to Burrows 40. And then it was 47 on the second round for David to 41 Burrows. And then we took a 10-minute break or 15-minute break, something like that. And then after the break was over, another representative who was supporting Burrows said, hey, can I request that we have a 15-minute break to discuss our strategy? And so somebody else said, no, let's take a vote on if we're going to take a break. And there's lots of voting. But they took a vote, and not everybody raised their hand in it, but it was 40 to continue going on and 39 to take a break. And those who wanted to take a break didn't like that.
But that's when they left.
Yeah. Then 36 of them stood up and walked out. And anyways, the chair of the caucus went over the rules, Tom Oliverson. He said, here's what it says, and a bunch of us wanted to go ahead and proceed and take the vote. Mitch Little, who's a fantastic guy coming in to be a state rep, who was Paxton's lawyer in the impeachment trial.
Yeah.
Anyways, he said, hey, and he should get a lot of credit for this. He said, hey, let's give them a chance to come back. Like, we want them to participate in this.
Right.
And we ended up for 3 hours of, certain people talking to each group back and forth saying, like, hey, come back. Like, we want you to be part of this process. And after like 3 hours of waiting, we decided, okay, we have a quorum, which is what it requires. We're going to go ahead and take our third round of vote. And because 26 of them in the end refused to come back, 10 of those 36 came back and voted. And so that was 62 people that we had in the room. We took the vote. David Cook ended up winning the vote, and we had the quorum.
Yeah.
So therefore, that was our Republican caucus nominee.
So even though he got a majority of the vote. So, but then because of the rules, it's really 62 is essentially how many he has.
Yeah, you just have to have more than a quorum at the caucus meeting.
Right.
And we started off with 88, and 26 of them refused to come back. So it was I think it was 3/5 or either 2/3 of the 62 that were there, would end up getting the nomination. and David Cook got that percentage. So,
And I thought I saw that some of those people that were currently listed on Burrow's list were sort of, they were sending out press releases. Hey, I wasn't supposed to be on this list.
More behind the scenes. So a bunch of us freshmen, after the caucus vote was over, we just kind of naturally just ended up gaggling into a room and talking it out. And Don
McLaughlin?
Yeah, Don McLaughlin. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's sitting across from the table from me, and somebody tells Don, like, "Hey, Don, Burroughs just put a list out, and it says that you're supporting Burroughs for speaker." And he was like, "Well, I didn't agree to that." And I told Don, I said, "Don, you need to put this out fast, like
quick.
like people are gonna be really mad at you." And anyways, he's like, "Well, I don't know how to deal with Twitter or whatever." And so someone else helped Don because I mean, Don's older. I don't even know what I'm doing on Twitter, but but Don and that other person was like, "Okay, here's." They put together a statement saying, "Hey, I did not agree to be on this list," and then it turned out there were like 8 of them.
That's what I thought. There was quite a few that did it.
Yeah,
it's sort of in succession.
It was interesting to be sitting there and watching Don just be like, "I didn't agree to be on this list." So like, it's neat to because before I'd say outsider or whatever. Like, I know what it's like to be outside of the room, hoping the people inside the room do the right thing, and it's nice to be inside the room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Because if you were a lobbyist, we know exactly how that feels.
Yeah,
you're outside the room.
Yeah, you're just hoping. And anyways, it ended up working out where we got David Cook in there, and we've all tried to be super respectful. We've tried. I say all. Most of us have been try to be super respectful to the other 26 and say, "Hey guys, just you agree to the rules. Like, just come back and when we're on the House floor, we hope you stick to the rules that you agreed to." And these guys, and some of them are really nice guys, like that I get along with, and I agree with them on a lot of things. Maybe not everything, but none of us agree on anything.
I was a little surprised by some of the names myself.
Yeah. And anyways, I'm just like for us freshmen, they're not setting the best example right now of these are guys that have been in leadership for a while, and they're just saying we refuse to participate. Which is not a great lesson to show the freshmen.
So what do you I mean, if you had to put it in a nutshell, what's driving these guys to be so reticent about wanting to participate in the
process? I have 2 reasons that I think are appropriate. One is power. These guys have had power, chairman positions, and it's amazing. Like, I mean, I don't think a lot of, okay, it's great if you get a chairman's position. Okay, good, you get to run a committee. That doesn't mean you're better than anybody else, right? But I've watched where people get treated better because they're a chairman.
Oh yeah,
because it really is, in a way, it is a powerful position because
they can raise money. They can raise money,
and anyway, so watching that, I think that there is a grasp on power that some of them don't want to lose, and they feel like if things change, they're going to lose that. So I think that's a reality. The other one is the not to attack them, but they don't have the most conservative voting records, which generally means they don't have the most conservative personal beliefs, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they're seeing a very strong conservative base now start to control the Republican Party, and they don't like that, and so they don't want to be participating in the conservatives taking over. So if that makes sense, which is funny.
Yeah,
I like looking at the transition of. We had Democrats, and people think, "Oh, Democrats super leftist," but the truth is, there's a lot of conservative Democrats,
right.
and
especially, for sure,
and especially before the party switch, before Republicans took majority, like there were plenty of conservative Democrats, and anyways, now, but you're looking Democrats to Republican, which was a moderate mix, right? It was basically the moderate Republicans working with the Democrats, and then now you see us transitioning into a more conservative position where the Republicans have a stronger conservative position than they've had before. And so it's just watching the transition work. And so I think they just don't like that happening. And then there's donors. There's donors that I've received money from, and I know these families, and I think they're fantastic people. And I'm amazed by, as a guy who grew up as a working class guy, I'm a diesel mechanic by trade. And watching other guys who are manual labor guys become very successful and very well off financially, I'm impressed by these families and still have very strong values.
Yeah.
They've decided to get into politics over the last 10, 15 years or so. And, nobody seems to really complain whenever Jeff Bezos donates or Michael Bloomberg. Who else is there that's doing that? George Soros. Like, you don't hear lot of people's heads rolling over that. But as soon as you get a very conservative couple of families donating in, then all of a sudden they're just yelling from the rooftop, "This is terrible," and they can't. For some reason, they have derangement syndrome where they can't stop repeating these families' names, blaming them.
Oh yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah, and it's the two gentlemen out in West Texas, and now you got oh gosh, I'm going to draw a blank on his name. Up in Amarillo,
Fairly.
Yeah, Fairly, and he's now in the game.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting.
These are great families. Like
They're big people that build their business. I mean, they did their thing. I mean, they're wealthy because they work their ass off.
The Wilkes, and I don't know if you know, okay with me going into this route.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
So like the Wilkes brothers, I know Ferris, I don't know Dan, and I know Ferris's sisters, and I know the kids and everything. Like great family, super devoted to their faith, and so Ferris and Dan grew up, having to lay bricks, and then I think it was 1995 or something. They started a masonry company and ended up doing really well. And then these are guys who manual labor. You talk to any of the employees, they'll tell them like, yeah, they'll lay 2 rows of brick for every 1 row that all their employees will lay. Like they know how to work hard. And then anyways, when they had done well with the masonry stuff, my understanding, and I know one of the guys that helped with this rig, they decided to build their own fracking rig, which is I've been in the frack world, and the idea of 2 guys figuring out how to build a frack rig is amazing. And they built their own fracking rig and it worked, and they turned it into an extremely successful company.
They did. Yeah.
I mean, it's great to watch these hardworking guys, strong family convictions, become very successful. And then they put a lot of money into Ted Cruz's race. That's what raised a lot of eyebrows. They had put like $15 million into Ted Cruz's presidential race back then in 2016. And then the other family that everybody loves to name and blame, which they don't deserve any blame. They're an incredibly good family. Like my friends have worked for them for a long time. My best friend's sister-in-law is that guy's like personal assistant. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
Who is it? Tell me again. Which one are you talking? Who you talking about?
Talking about Tim Dunn. So,
Tim Dunn.
And
yeah.
Anyways, really good family. I like them a lot. They're very convicted in family values. If you talk to any of their employees, like their employees will tell you how wonderful it is to work for them. But they put money into politics, and now all of a sudden the opposition's heads are they don't know how to handle it, and so all they can do is just blame the Wilkes and the Dunns, and they I don't know if those families want me to even talking about this, but anyways, those families have been very good, and they've in my opinion they've had a lot of influence lately in politics, and the more moderates and the Democrats can't stand it, and they don't know how to handle it right now. So
I mean, that's your right to do with what you want with your money. And if you want to get involved, I mean, in politics and use your money to do that, you can do that. You can do it any way you want to. And yeah, you're right. I mean, all the money that comes in from the other side, a lot of times is not coming from inside Texas. It's always coming from outside, but nobody says anything about that.
No. And I guarantee you, all the people that are bad-mouthing these people have not actually spent time around them. So there are people right now that are resisting the David Cook vote because they think that these families have played a role in David Cook.
I read something about that they feel like well, they don't. I'm not speaking for them. I just know what I've read, and of course, that's all you get out there is really that, and you'll know better. But that's exactly it. That they're afraid that you're controlled if you're on the Cook side of things, and you'll be controlled by these families.
Yeah, and I've never, like I said, I've known these people for a little while, and I've had friends that have grown up around them forever, and anyways, I've never seen them like have a controlling. I mean, now if you vote outside of the things that they value, right? Like, sure, they're not gonna
be happy.
Yeah. But I've never, as far as I've seen them be like, you have to do this, or like I've never seen somebody controlling in that manner that
so that makes that brings a question to my mind is like, what issue could the current Republicans that are on the Burrow side of things, what issue could they possibly be concerned about that they think they're going to be controlled on? And I mean, they agree for the most part with the agenda that coming up. I'm assuming, is there something out there that we don't know about?
I don't know. I don't know if you on Twitter. I had to take Twitter off my phone just because I find myself gravitating to it too much.
Right.
And, but anyways, it's just the comments over and over again, bad mouthing the families, not necessarily Burrows in them, right? But the supporters of that side doing it. I don't think. I mean, our goal, we ran as Republicans. We have our Republican priorities. If they don't like those priorities, they should play a role during the state conventions, on opposing some of those priorities, which wouldn't be good for them politically because we are transitioning to a more conservative position. I'm a liberty guy. Like some people call me a libertarian. I'm not. I'm a Jeffersonian Republican.
Yeah.
And so my goal is there are going to be things that people do that I don't like, but I want people to have the most freedom in their life that they can with government staying out of it. My motto, all my campaign slogans are more liberty, less government. And so, and I'm a very conservative person, but I also believe in freedom. So that's where my big thing is. So there's things that I stand for that that some of the people in the very conservative position don't like. And I say stand for, I stand for people's freedom to live their lives.
So your values.
Yeah. And so we're in a weird position, but I hope Burroughs and them, they're very conservative in a lot of ways, right? But it looks really bad right now because they're working with the Democrats. And so that take any good thing that they've done up to this point, and that gets all forgotten because they've decided to associate with the Democrats on this. And this goes back to there are conservative Democrats. And I don't think we should be appointing them as chairs right now. And the problem is they're not always appointing the conservative Democrats as chairs to begin with. They're putting some very liberal ones in there. But I'll work with the Democrats on there's things we're going to align on, especially on some justice reform and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I filed a bill, or I have it in ledge council. It'll be filed soon to restore gun rights to nonviolent felons. Because there's a problem, and I'm probably going way off a topic or whatever.
No, don't. No, go ahead.
But the nonviolent felons right now, there are so many people that have been given felonies for very low level crimes that are now punished for the rest of their life with that terminology.
Give me a quick example, just so people.
THC. Let's say that you're 18-year-old.
Right.
I know a guy that 50 years ago.
That's true. That'd be a felony.
Yeah,
that's right. You're exactly right.
Anyways, he got a felony for marijuana possession, and now the guy, for last 50 years has had to live with the felony title on his name, and which means he can't run for political office. It has effects on him in other ways. Can't carry a gun, and the guy's been a pretty good steward of his community for the last 50 years, but he's punished because of that. So I want to. Our problem, felony. The term felony is so integrated into our penal code and government code,
right?
That it's going to be hard to address it in a clean way. We're trying to find a way to do this, but basically, we need to change what is actually a felony. Or it initially came back from Thomas Jefferson. He had written out. Here's basically kind of a set of the way our laws should work, and in that he had written out that if you're in jail for more than 365 days, that's going to be classified as a felony. Remember back then they didn't put people in jail for as long as we put people in jail for now too. Right. So you can
particularly for things like marijuana possession.
Yeah,
I mean that's
Thomas Jefferson had opium growing in his his place. So that was up till like the 80s or 90s. He still had opium growing there, and then they finally took it away. But pretty crazy.
But I've seen I think there's going to be, at least on that side of things, on the marijuana side of things, I know the state's trying to fix that issue in a lot of different ways.
And I don't want to come across like I'm pro drug.
No. But I mean, I get what you're saying. It's nonviolent felonies, because the felony itself is pretty harsh. When you get,
and there's a lot of Democrats that are willing to. We're on the same page. On our justice system needs to be reformed in ways, and then. I've got a bill that changes the requirements for lawyers to become a lawyer. Right now, I believe the code says you have to have at least 2 years of law school, and then the bar test. I filed a bill that says that you can substitute the 2 years of law school with paralegal experience or on the job interning, through a law firm. And we've actually, I can't say names, but we've actually got a lot of legal people that are in support of that. There's also people that are want to protect their law school status.
Of course.
But anyways, that's something that I think, the Democrats will be on. So there's going to be lots of things where I can work with the Democrats, but, I'm also going to be very like, hey, I don't think you guys should be chairs. Like, we're the majority party. That's how Texas voted. This is the way.
That'll work if things don't get too far out of hand. I saw that there was a letter put out recently by Trey Martinez Fisher. And, I've known Trey forever, I've known him since he was a freshman. I mean, I've been around that long. And he's a very smart guy, and he knows the rules, and he knows but he put out a letter the other day, and he was talking about the Democrats need to get together now that there's all this sort of conflict going on amongst the Republicans. And I guess what worries me about that is if the Republicans aren't able to come to agreement, before the 14th, then it could get extreme. That first day of session might be the worst day ever. And, I have no idea what could happen, because I don't think I've ever seen it I've seen them go through multiple votes, but, depending on how hard line this group of 26 wants to stay, it could go on forever, go on a long time. And I don't think that's good. It's not good. It's not good for the legislative process. It's not good for people that voted people into office. And it's also not good for your ability and other people's ability to work together.
And there's been some distrust sowed because we've seen some state reps and soon-to-be state reps that are trying to play both sides of the aisle right now. Not both sides of the Democrat Republican, but the sides of Burrows and Cook groups, and they're like trying to be friends to both sides, and pretend like they're supporting both sides, and that's sowed some distrust, and so that sucks too, to see, like, we had our caucus rules, let's agree to it. They're also trying to go back and say who made this? Carl Tepper, I think, was making the post the other day, and he was an Air Force guy. I'm an Air Force guy. Usually Air Force guys kind of stick together, but sometimes not. And Carl, who's a nice guy, is saying, well, should we censure Brian Harrison and Nate Schatzline and those guys for opposing the speaker nomination last time? And anyways, I'm like, hey, let's just look at going forward. But I get the problem there. But the problem that they had 2 years ago was that the speaker was willing to appoint Democrat chairs, and that's why they were opposing him. So I have a hard time believing that the SRECs are going to censure Rule 44, Harrison and Schatzline and them for being too Republican.
It's almost like, you don't want to go nuclear too quick. I mean, it's like you still got a couple of weeks to kind of work this out. I'm sure there's a lot of phone calling and a lot of maneuvering. And I guess one of the things I read about the other day is that the possibility, and this may not be true, the possibility of a third person being put in to try.
I think the possibility is possible, and what I mean by that is there are people who are seeing the stall, if you'll call it a stall. We're doing what we agreed to. But the other people, how do I put it? Not trying to attack them, but the other side weakened their positions, and we're staying strong with our roughly 62 votes right now for David Cook as speaker. And, some of that 62 includes people that supported Burrows but agreed to the caucus rule. And they said, hey, we agree to the rule, so we're going to stick with it. Anyways, there's a couple people trying to say, oh, well, let's have an alternate candidate that can get us to the 76. And I posted this in one of our group chats, and I just said, hey, it's not our duty to weaken our position because a group of people weaken their position. Like, we need to hold our
That's a good point.
position. So
that's a good point. And it may be too early for that too. I mean, it seems like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing because I don't really know. But I mean, doing this long enough, you kind of sit back and you think, as time gets closer, it's almost like we still have like light years. Like, it's 2 weeks, but it's like seems like light years. But I think as we get closer, it seems like there's people that are going to be on that Burrow side that are going to start to feel a lot of pressure, and they're going to start to see, this could be really bad for the party in general, and just our agenda, just the agenda. I mean, you
mentioned before, some of these folks didn't get primary last time.
Right.
Some of them did. Drew Darby had a very tight race last time,
and Jeff Leach.
Yeah, and so on Darby, he's my neighbor. He lives in San Angelo, about 70 miles from my hometown, and anyways, Drew had Abbott came out hard against him, had a lot of money spent against him. He survived. But in West Texas, there's a lot, I don't want to say less support for school choice, but there's definitely a bigger group of people against school choice in West Texas. And Drew came out strong against school choice. And there's also, I'm going to chase rabbits all over the place, but I think it's disingenuous to call this a school choice bill because we already, in my opinion, we have school choice. You can choose between public school, private school, homeschooling, charter schools, which are part of public school.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of options out there. So to call it a school choice bill, and there's going to be people mad at me for saying this, but but insinuates that we don't have choice right now. We do have choice. If they wanted to call this expanded school choice, like I get that, and I get caught up in the term. I say school choice too, not realizing it. But anyways, what we're dealing with is an ESA bill. And I've told I publicly support expanding school choice for people to have better options. I don't like the monopoly that I feel that there's a lot of issues inside of pub ed right now, and there's some great people inside of pub ed trying to do the right thing. But Drew got beat up pretty good for that. He still won his primary, but Drew is still doubling down on, he's going to support Burroughs, and so he's going to get primaried again if he doesn't retire. He's been there for a while. A bunch of these guys. The interesting thing to remember is you generally, once you get to 8 years, you get retirement. You don't get to collect it till 60, and it's also not a lot of money or anything like that. We don't make a lot of money either.
No, $600. Well, used to be $600.
I get to pay in instead of getting a paycheck. It's $600 a month, but the health insurance is more than $600, so I have to write the state a check. But anyways, all these
what
guys,
a deal.
all these guys, many of these guys are at that retirement point in their career. Which is weird. It's retirement, but it's not retirement. But they're at this retirement point where
they vested.
Yeah, and so if they lose their primary, or if they've been there long enough, they're ready to retire. So I don't think that they're too worried about all the hate that they're going to get. So, but I hope they come around, and it's more of a character thing for me. It's like, hey, we all agreed to those rules, all 88 of us at the beginning of the committee or the caucus meeting, out of character and out of keeping our word. We should stick with it. And I try to teach my kids this: when you die, the only thing you have left is your reputation.
Right.
Your word needs to mean something. So, what do you want that to look like when you're at the end of your life? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think out. What is that going to mean? Not just now, and if it's vengeance and or retribution and all those kind of things, that doesn't serve you well long term.
Yeah.
And we've all done that, right? You all acted out of those things, and I'm not saying that people aren't acting out of principle. I mean, they may have their own principle that they're acting, but I'm thinking if you're looking at the bigger picture and you've got this huge agenda and you're trying to do good things, you have the majority, so you're supposed to be in charge of making things happen.
Yeah,
and you can't elect a leader. That's just not a good start, and it's just not a good look. And it's happening in DC as well. That may get resolved. Hope this gets resolved. I don't know that I don't know that I could put I could handicap it and determine whether or not it's going to get resolved before the 14th. But I feel like if you only need 14 of the 26 to come over, right? I mean, I feel like you're probably going to get that. I think
I hope so. Politics is super weird. I mean, if we all stick with, hey, we're Republican, let's support Republican values and all that, it works. When you get into the federal stuff, we got Mike Johnson, who, and don't by his voting record, he's the most conservative speaker the House has probably ever, the U.S. House has ever had. But he still acquiesces a lot to bad ideas, bad continuing resolutions, Democrats, and it's because they know if they don't, it's going to work against them somehow. Now, I'm a Chip Roy guy, and so Chip Roy stands his ground no matter what, at what cost, no matter who's calling him out.
Yeah, he does.
And Chip, we share several counties, his district and my district.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
And,
okay.
And I've watched Chip stand his ground many times in his district where somebody questioned something out. He stood up against the COVID stuff, and people got mad at him for that. And Chip is probably one of the most conservative guys that I've seen. Chip, people, if you go right now, recently Donald Trump was saying, I hope somebody primaries Chip, and I try to stay out of all that stuff. But then people started putting out a list like, oh, he worked for John Cornyn before. Yeah, John Cornyn is not a good conservative, but I hope people see this is that Chip Roy may have been the only conservative boy. I think there were two of them that were very conservative in Cornyn's staff and were giving him good guidance. And then once Chip Roy and the other guy are gone, then you see John Cornyn left to his own instinct and going liberal super fast. So they're attacking him because he at one point worked for John Cornyn, but But he was one of the only two sane voices that were trying to encourage John, hey, you're a Republican, you need to do this. And then once they leave, then you see John just really go in the opposite direction. So,
well, your point is really well taken, because the politics is one of those things that, whatever you do, you get branded, and it doesn't go away. So it's and it may not even be accurate. Kind of like the Chip Roy's issue with the working for Cornyn, someone who is considered to be a more liberal Republican than what DC is acceptable is right now, and particularly with the last election cycle and what people want. And and I think what what these guys, and that's a good point that you make, that a lot of these guys are kind of towards here in Texas, going back to Texas, but that they're kind of at the end of their sort of career. They've vested. They're not too worried. If they lose, they lose. They've already served many, many years. And, but it's also, like you said, that's your legacy. Your legacy is going to be when you leave, when you leave here. And that's what people remember you for. That is politics, and you leave it here. So if you're going to cause that kind of problem for the Republican Party going in to for this session, it'll stick with you. I mean, maybe you don't care. I mean, that's their prerogative, I guess.
It's my district, Super Rural. I have the second largest district in the state, and 41 school districts inside of a state rep district, which is pretty crazy. A lot of people have 1, 2, or 3 school districts, and anyways, I have a lot of school districts that have expressed a lot of people within the school district that have expressed their dissatisfaction with the idea of expanding school choice and the ESAs. And but polling shows that it's like 66% of rural Texans support school choice. And then anyways, I have to make a decision on. I think Drew believes he's representing his district in that situation. I don't know that that's accurate or not, but anyways, like I've told them, if you give me a clean ESA bill, I'll vote for it. And I campaigned on expanding school choice. I could chase rabbits all day. Sorry if I start doing
no, that's fine. I mean, this is great information, and I just really appreciate you being on here to talk about these issues. The viewers and listeners don't get a clear picture, because all they see is what's put on Twitter or the news or whatever. You just get little snippets, and so when we can get somebody that comes in from the inside that can tell us what's really going on, and we appreciate it.
I take pride in. I feel like I have a reputation of, and this has been actually said to me before, but I'm the guy who's not afraid to say the quiet part out loud. And I think the people need to know, here's what goes on in your house.
Transparency. I love it, and I hope that during the session, we hope to be parked out here in front of the Capitol throughout the session. I hope.
I'll come out.
We'll just ring you up. There's something big going on. Come out, tell us really what's going on. It would really be big for all of our viewers and listeners.
You're gonna have a lot of great freshmen to interview this year.
That's great. I'm just gonna, I'll just I'll just put some food and some drinks outside there, and so everybody just kind of rotate through.
Do the steaks, and we'll all be here.
There you go. Yeah, there we go. Got a good idea. We'll bring a barbecue pit.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it so much, you being here. Congratulations, and look forward to the 14th and what you're